بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
So now here we'll try to see some of the troubleshooting tickets with related to DHCP. Now again, already we discussed about some of the basic DHCP configurations. If you go back, we already covered a little bit more on the DHCP configurations, like what is the DHCP process. Now this is something I expect you to already know, and how the configuration goes if you're making a router as a DHCP server. And then we can also make a DHCP client. And we have seen the lab as well. And also we can configure the relay agent where you can assign the IP address to the clients on a remote LAN. Now also we have seen the lab, which is more on assigning the DHCP server, assigning the IP addresses to the clients within the same subnet of same VLAN as well as on the remote VLAN. So we'll try to create one configuration troubleshooting here with respect to the lab. And also we have seen some of the points we need to keep in mind while doing the troubleshooting. Like we discussed that the possibility can be the misconfigurations, or it can be the layer 2 and layer 2, or the helper address not configured where the router may not forward the broadcast. Some other issues like the DHCP pool might be out of IP addresses, duplicate IP address, interfaces receiving the DHCP request if they are not having an IP address, or even if you have multiple DHCP servers, make sure that they are synchronized. And also if you have configured any kind of DHCP snooping feature, then in that case, you need to figure out the trusted ports facing the DHCP and the trunk ports. Now, there are specific commands we'll be using, like you can use a show IP DHCP conflict command. So this command is basically going to show you if there are any IP conflicts. And you can use a command called show IP DHCP binding, which is going to show you what are the IPs binding to the servers, the specific clients with what are the MAC addresses. Additionally, we can use the debug commands in case if you want, but again, you need to be a little bit careful while you're using them. DHCP debug server events. Now, this command is going to show you the DHCP events at the backend. And also you can use a debug IP DHCP server packet, which is going to show you the updates relevant to the DHCP database. Now, what I'll do is I'm going to configure one trouble ticket here based on the same topology what we have done already with the configurations. So when we did the configurations, everything was working fine. So if you try to understand the scenario here, we do have the DHCP server here. And this DHCP server is responsible for assigning the IPs to the local network from 192.168.1.subnet. And the same DHCP server is also supposed to assign the IP address for the users on the 192.168.2.subnet. Now, everything was working fine. So what I did is I configured some of the issues on the topology. And right now, we will be seeing a couple of tickets on this, in that the first ticket is the users of the VLAN 10. They are not able to get the IP address from the DHCP server. So first we'll see in the trouble ticket 1, we'll see with respect to VLAN 10. In the next ticket, we'll see the next one. So which means in my case, these are the two PCs, the VLAN 10, they are not getting the IP address from the DHCP server. Now to start with, we'll start with the configurations. We'll go to the PCs and try to verify with an IP config command to confirm whether they are really not getting the IP address or not. As you can see, they are getting the 169.254 subnet. And as per my configurations, I'm expecting that there should be an option called DHCP, which has to be automatically selected. So in terms of configuration here, you can see these things are okay. So to start with the troubleshooting here, you can go with all the possible issues. And again, as I said, it's recommended to start with the prerequisite things. So what I do is normally we'll try to verify if there are any misconfigurations. And once you confirm the configurations are correct, then we'll try to check some of the prerequisite things like the layer 1 connectivity, because sometimes the port might be in a shutdown state, or the port might not be reachable, or sometimes these, if they're on the same subnet, they may not be on the same VLAN. That's something I'm going to check. Or if the DHCP server is on a remote subnet, then you have to check this one. So this is something we are going to see in the next, because right now we are focusing on the VLAN 10. As you can see, the DHCP server and the clients, they are on the same subnet. So most likely you don't have this issue. And the DHCP server might be out of pool of addresses. We don't have too many clients, so that might be not the case. And the duplication of the IPs maybe because, but again, duplication IPs happens. Then in that case, there is the reachability issue. But in this case, the device is not getting the IP. And so let me check from the other side as well, because it's really important to isolate the issue. So I'm going to check the same thing on the second PC and verify if everyone is facing the problem. Now it's very important to isolate the issue, because most of the time, let's say in my case, the DHCP server is supposed to assign the IP to all these clients. So I need to isolate whether only that particular PC or the user is facing the issue, or everyone is facing the issue. Now, with the help of this basic isolation, you can easily figure out where might be the problem. And according to that, you can start the troubleshooting. Like, let's say if everyone is facing the problem, then most likely the issue is, you can say like, okay, if everyone is facing the problem, only the users connecting on this switch facing the problem, or every switch facing the problem. Like that, again, you can start investigating on it. And if only the users on this switch complains, but rest are okay, means most likely the issue will be on this side. Now, in my case, I'm going to see that everyone is facing the problems, which means if everyone is facing the problem, then most likely the problem is with the centralized option, means maybe with the DHCP server, or maybe the switch itself, where the switch might be down to which the users are connected. So it can be a problem with the centralized one. So in our case, the switch seems to be okay. And we assume here we do have the layer 1 connectivity is fine. We don't have any connectivity issues. So all the links are connected properly, and all the links are in no shutdown state, and everything is working fine. So if you want to just quickly confirm that, you can also do that with the help of show interface status command, which is going to show you the interfaces connected or not, and the status of that particular interfaces as well. So in my case, I'm going to check the prerequisites. The first thing, I'll start with the configuration, but before that, I'll quickly confirm that these two are okay. And let me just quickly do that. The layer 1 seems to be okay. Let's go and check the VLAN configurations to make sure that the port number 1, 2, and 3 are in the same VLAN. Because now here the client is expecting to reach out the DHCP server through the broadcast request, which means I need to make sure that this port number 1, 2, 3 should be in the same VLAN. And here you can see port number 2 and 3 in the VLAN 10, but the port number 1 is not in the same VLAN. So which means if they're in different VLAN, the broadcast request is not reaching the DHCP server. So there is a port configuration issue here. So which means the port number 1 should be in the VLAN 10, right? That's what we need to make sure. So if I say show VLAN here, so when you say show VLAN switch or show VLAN brief, now you'll see the port number 1 where your DHCP server is connected, and port number 2 and 3, you can see they're in the same VLAN. So once you fix one issue, now immediately you can go ahead and check, because most likely there are no more issues in the production network. And also make sure that you have this port fast is also enabled, because here you can see, you can verify this configuration on the ports to make sure that this port number 1 port fast is also enabled here, which means I can go ahead and verify once again quickly to confirm whether it's working or not. Because normally, whenever you are doing some troubleshooting in the production scenarios, you need to, whenever you figure out the issue, you immediately go ahead and check whether it's working or not. Because most of the times there will be only one issue. In that case, you don't need to really spend much time on checking each and everything. Because in terms of learning process, that's really good to know each and everything, so that you can go one by one But once you are in the production network or in the exams, especially in the CCA lab exams or wherever you are doing some kind of troubleshooting, you have to make it quick. Means you need to simply escalate with a few commands and figure out what might be the problem. And once you fix that, you immediately need to go and check, because the remaining things you don't need to really check once the users are getting the IP. Now, as you can see, I'm getting the IP of 192.168.1.4. And you can see immediately on the next side, I'm going to check here. On the second PC, I'm getting the IP address of 192.168.1.3. And even you can verify with show IP DHCP bindings, where you should be able to see, not here, because the switch is not the DHCP server. So I'm going to the router where I'll say show IP DHCP bindings. You can see there are some IPs of 1.3, 1.4 are being assigned to the VLANs. So this is one quick troubleshooting. Now, let's say in case after doing this also, now here we got this issue. Now, the other thing, we need to verify the misconfigurations. I'll quickly go through with that, even though we don't have the issue here, with a simple command called with show run. So in the show run, you can clearly see what is the network we have configured and what is the default router and the DNS information. So make sure that this information is correct. And also I'm excluding some of the addresses here. Now these things we need to check. So if there is any conflict, then probably the command, as I said, show IP DHCP conflicts, that's a command which is going to show out if there is any duplication of the IP addresses. Now, rest of the things, as I said, in case if you have this IP address, because sometimes what happens is this is the interface which goes and connects to, not here. In fact, in my case, the switch. Sometimes, let me show you what can be the problem here. This one, if you correlate this issue, so normally there is a possibility that the VLAN or the gateway interface might not have an IP address. So either the VLAN 10, if that interface is down, or if there is any kind of VLAN related issues, or that interface is not having an IP, or if it is on a different subnet, then that can be the case as well. You have to check this as well for this one. Now, as we are not using any kind of DHCP snooping related issues, so we don't need to worry. But in case if you have any DHCP snooping enabled, then we have to say, we have to use this command called show IP DHCP snooping. Right now it is disabled, but if it is enabled, you have to figure out what are the trusted ports and the untrusted ports. Again, more on this DHCP snooping will be seeing in a separate DHCP snooping, the layer 2 security troubleshoot in that section. But this is something you need to correlate over there as well.